If I work hard, I'll be where I want to be. I'll be where I want to be. You know, be what I want to be. If I work hard, I'll be where I want to be. I know I can. I know I can. Be what I want to be. Be what I want to be. If I work hard, if I work hard, I'll be where I want to be. I'll be where I want to be.
Hello, everybody. Good morning and welcome to yet another JuCE session. It's really great to have everybody. Well, this is our agenda for today, and the topic that we will be dealing with is how important is formal education today, right? And well, we've had the first thing on the agenda, which is joining of guests, and the second thing on the agenda is recognition of students and schools' presence. Samuel is in JuCE and he is with some JSS3 and SS1 kids, I believe. And Nkem is in Enugu and he is with kids usually ranging from JSS1 to SS3. So this is some of the partnerships that we currently have with schools in Nigeria. And of course, we're looking to connect with more schools and have more partnerships. Okay, so next slide, please. Opening remarks by me. I'm Ada Okeke. I'm the founder of JuCE Africa, and JuCE Africa stands for Juvenile Career Education Africa. And what is Juvenile Career Education Africa? What do we do? Why are we here? JuCE Africa is an NGO dedicated to supporting the Nigerian child to make career decisions, right? The typical question, or maybe the biggest or the most frequent question that kids are asked in Nigeria is, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to be in future? And usually there's not a lot of support, there's not a lot of guidance, there's not a lot of mentorship for the kids together. And that's what JuCE is about. JuCE is about supporting the Nigerian child. JuCE is about supporting the Nigerian child to make those types of decisions. So for example, should I be a lawyer or should I be a journalist, or should I be an actress, or should I go into school to study theater arts, or should I, go into school to study law? Meanwhile, all along, I want to be an actress. Do I even go to school at all, which is the topic of today? We had this question a few sessions ago when someone said, I'm not interested in education, I'm interested in entrepreneurship. Do I need to go to the university? So that's kind of a question we want to tackle today. But more than that, these types of support and direction is what we want to offer to the Nigerian child. Next slide, please. And yeah, so the need for JuCE arises from the fact that, like I said, there's not a lot of exposure, right? So the average career that most kids know about, law, medicine, engineering, maybe accounting, and now tech, right? But there are a plethora of other careers, in Nigeria, but not just in Nigeria, around the world, and many kids don't know about this. There's not a lot of support, even when you know what you want to do, maybe how to get there, how to navigate. There's not a lot of support in that. There's not a lot of mentorship. And then finally, there's not a lot of guidance in terms of uni preparation. How do you prepare for uni? Some people think, when I write JAM, we'll find out. It's not a we will find out matter. It's a preparation process, especially if you're trying to harness global opportunities, scholarships outside of Nigeria, opportunities outside of Nigeria. It's not something you just say, when I get there. It's a preparation process, and there are steps to take to make sure to get there. So that's what JuCE is about. We have these types of presentations. Today we have a fireside chat, so we'll be having 3 speakers speaking. We have internships that we're currently negotiating with companies to be able to get kids into internships. You say you're interested in animation, like we had last 2 weeks. If you're interested in animation, then we want to be able to support you, to get internships, to see, can I draw? Can I animate? Career fairs, mentor one-on-ones. If you meet anyone on this platform who you connect with, who, I want to be, for example, a software engineer, and I've listened to a software engineer here, and it's something I want to do. We are dedicated to connecting you with mentors to support you on that journey. And of course, like I said, the uni preparation program. Next slide, please. So that's why JuCE is important. Our vision is to see a Nigeria where our children's careers are intentionally thought through, intentionally developed, and intentionally chosen. So we don't want you stumbling into a career. I wanted medicine, but they did not have it, so they gave me psychology. let me do psychology for 1 year and now jump to no. We want you to be on a path where you are where you are excited about what you're studying and you're excelling at what you're studying, and hopefully you'll be making very valuable contribution to Nigeria when you graduate. So next slide, please. And so how do you come in? Well, if you're a child here and you're listening to what we're saying, then you're in the right place, right? So you've already come in. Yeah, so what to do is we hold these sessions every 2 weeks and we have different topics, different people coming to speak to you about their career, different people coming to tell you what they do. And, so we have this every 2 weeks so you can attend. Very important to bring your friends. So if today you attended alone and you liked what you heard, then tomorrow, oh, sorry, not tomorrow, but yeah, tomorrow in that sense. So 2 weeks now, bring your friends along with you. Connect with us on social media. The links to our social media will be shared at the end of this session, but connect with us on Twitter, X, Instagram, YouTube. Every single session is recorded and posted on YouTube. So if you missed something, or if you want to see, for example, we've had someone in animation, we've had someone in maritime law, we've had someone, an actress, we've had a lawyer, we've had another tech professional speak to us. If you want to hear about those, all of that information is on our YouTube. So please check out our social media, become a member of JuCE. So if you're here and you're a young professional and you're passionate about what you do and you would like to share it with the younger generation, please become a member or mentor of JuCE, become a sponsor. It takes a lot of money to run JuCE and to get this to the kids. So become a sponsor and donate to JuCE. Become a career partner. If you own a company and you would like to partner with us to give internships to secondary school kids, usually senior secondary school kids, please connect with us for that purpose. And most importantly, tell others about JuCE. Okay, so those are the ways you come in. So I'm going to backtrack again and ask Nkem and Samuel if they can speak now to let us know. If not, we will move very quickly ahead so that we do not, so that we stay on schedule. Samuel, Nkem, can either of you speak? If not, it's okay. I know that you're with a bunch of kids. Okay, we will be moving ahead. So next slide. So we have 3 very exciting people going to be speaking to us today. We have, next slide, please. So we have Timothy Onyuke. Timothy is a software engineer based in the Netherlands. He actually works for one of the biggest rental companies in the Netherlands called Housing Anywhere. He's a software engineer. He has a diploma in electrical and electronics engineering from Federal Polytechnic Oko, and he's been working as a software engineer for 8 years now, right? So yeah, Timothy will be speaking to you today about how important he believes formal education is, how important it has been in his journey. And so yes, that is Timothy. Then there is Daniel. Next slide. Yes, thank you. There's Daniel. Daniel is a lawyer. He's a legal practitioner in Nigeria. I think he's coming up on almost 10 years legal experience now. So yeah, so he has a lot of insights to share, and he can, he works a lot with businesses and entrepreneurs and corporate law matters. So again, you can ask him, what is corporate law? Why is it different from other types of law? And this is something very interesting as well. Not all law is the same. There's corporate, there's litigation, there's maritime, there's this, there's that. So he works in corporate law, he works with businesses, and he will be speaking to you today about the importance of formal education with law and of course with just in general in Nigeria. And so that's our second speaker for today. Welcome, Daniel. And our third speaker for today is Ifeanyi. Ifeanyi is a marketing and business manager, brand manager with over 10 years experience. She helps, brands to create world-class world-class brand identities in Nigeria. She's led many growth and success powerhouses in the FMCG sector, so the foods and consumer goods sector. And yeah, she's very excited to empower and support young people and support the next generation. She's very excited or passionate about equal opportunities, about youth youth community service and creating a wholesome environment for kids to thrive. She herself has 2 kids, so she has great experience with this. Okay, so it's not a theory matter. She has great experience. So as you can see, we have 3 people from 3 different careers, but with a lot of insights to share with you, right? So next slide. So with a lot of insight to share with you. So please, all children here, please listen very attentively. Make notes, ask questions. Also, you know that this type of thing is so amazing because I don't know how many times you will come across a lawyer, a marketing executive, a marketing manager, brand manager, and a software engineer, talking to you at the same time. So you really have the opportunity to listen and ask a lot of questions. So yeah, without further ado, I'm going to hand over to, hi Nkem, thank you, we can see you now. I'm going to hand over to our 3 speakers, Ifeanyi, Timothy and Daniel. Please switch on your camera so that I will spotlight you and we can begin our conversation. Thank you. It's okay, perfect. So these are the 3 people who will be speaking to you. Ifeanyi, thank you for joining us. Daniel, thank you for joining us. And Timothy, thank you guys for joining us. So to start off, I'm going to ask the simplest question you're possibly going to get today, which is introduce yourself. Tell us your name, what you do, and why you're here today. So yeah. I'm going to start ladies first. So I'm going to start with Ifeanyi.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Fantastic. So great. First of all, apologies that I'm doing this from the car. I told them that I'm actually working. So maybe it's a bit counterintuitive that we're actually having this conversation in the course of work. So I guess it makes a lot of sense. My name is Ifeanyi. Very excited to be here. I think Ada already did a bit of introduction in the beginning. I work in marketing, category, and business management. Today, I actually currently manage, I'd say, the biggest beverage brand in Nigeria, which is Milo. I've worked in Nestle for a considerable amount of time. I do a lot of things as well. So I guess it's one of the things that it may be interesting to talk about. I also run a kids party planning business. So I work, but at the same time, I own my own company. Still very small, but baby steps. Like Adam mentioned, I'm a mother. I have 2 kids. I have a 7-year-old, and in a few days, a soon to be 6-year-old as well. I like coffee a lot. I like to exercise because I want to be, at least I want to be around as much as possible for a considerable amount of time. I know that it's not all in our hands, but I believe that at least we should also do our own part. And I'm excited to be here with every single one of you here today. So, Anna, thank you so much for inviting me and having me here. And also looking forward to engage with the other speakers. I did a little bit of snooping around about you guys as well. So it's great to be here with you.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Ifeanyi. Timothy, we'll go to you next, please.
Thanks a lot, Ada. And can you guys hear me? Nice. Ifeanyi, I hope you didn't see the wrong websites because the last time I Googled my name, I don't know what came up. So hopefully you saw only the things I would like you to see. So I'm just pleased to meet you here, Ifeanyi. And my name is Timothy, and I am a software engineer. Currently, I work for a rental company, so it's one of the biggest here in Europe. And I've been in the tech industry for a little over 8 years, and I started off this thing as far back as 2015. And right now, I live in the Netherlands, and I moved here about 4 years ago. So I am quite passionate about helping young people to make better choices, and especially that some of us, we are kind of lucky, I would say, to have the kind of information that we had And one thing that I've learned over the years is having the right information as early as possible is very, very important. So this is what kind of like motivates me to be here today. And hopefully I'm going to share some really meaningful information that will change somebody's life, hopefully. I mean, that could be a lot, but I'm hoping that we could have a good conversation and answer some questions that could help the kids who are here today and those that might listen to the recording whenever they could, get this information that will help them make the right choice. So yeah, besides working, I play video games and I play a lot of football. And so that's about me. And pleased to be here and looking forward to our conversations today.
Thank you, Timothy, for that very ambitious introduction. But yeah, last but not the least, we have Daniel. Hi.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Daniel. I am a lawyer. I live in Nigeria. So, yeah, like Ada had mentioned, I have been working as a lawyer for 9 years this year. Talked about give or take 9 years. It has been a very interesting experience, of course. I work across finance, private equity, a bunch of interesting things. I will not go into too many details. I don't things for the children in the house. So I like my job largely. So currently, I work with TLP Advisory, the law firm in Nigeria, the US, and the UK as well. So I lead compliance. I work largely on the compliance team. I lead it team. I've led it for about 12 months now. And like Ada had mentioned, I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of businesses, a lot of startups, tech startups especially. I help them structure their businesses and all that. But that's not why we are here. We're here to talk largely about education. So I largely look forward to the conversation we're having today. I know it's a privilege to be here. It's a privilege to have had like education I've had. Yeah, it's definitely not something like the importance of formal education with my background and everything else. So yeah, I definitely look forward to speaking with everyone else. I have not checked anyone's profile, but yeah, I look forward to talking to everyone today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. Yeah, thanks for being here. And thank you, Ifeanyi, Timothy, and Daniel. And yeah, so kids, you're in for a great time. Or not kids, but everyone joining, you're in for a great time. So I'm going to start off with another relatively easy question, which is, can you tell us what you do? And also, yeah, I want to just mention this from the perspective of keeping it very simple, right? If you had to explain what law or corporate law is to I think our age group, the age group for the kids we serve, 19 to 18, 17. So, that age, very simple. What does a corporate lawyer do, right? Very simply, what does a marketing and brand executive do? I know you've kind of spoken about it with Milo, Ifeanyi, but what day to day, when you go to the office in the morning, what does that entail? And Timothy, what does a software engineer do, right? Basic, simple for the kids. So we're going to start this time with Daniel. Yeah.
Who's the corporate lawyer?
Okay.
Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
That's a very interesting, very straightforward question. So what does a corporate lawyer do? So basically, everybody knows what lawyers do. For corporate lawyers, you know how we have a business. We hear about different business, but you've never actually seen a business. Like if I say, okay, have you seen Paystack before? You haven't seen Paystack. Have you seen First Bank before? Yes, you've seen the First Bank building, but you're not seeing First Bank in the flesh. So what lawyers basically do is we help businesses function in the real world. So business only exist as largely ideas. Yes, you've seen a business is building, but how does that business function on a day-to-day basis? Like how do they run their decision-making process? How do they appoint those who lead them? How do they get staff? How do they do a bunch of things? What a lawyer does basically, what a corporate lawyer does basically is it helps that business run from day to day and ensures that, okay, so we have what we call, I don't want to dumb because the convention down too much. So we have laws. So we have corporate law. So corporate law is like, in a nutshell, the law of business. What the lawyer does is that he ensures that businesses are compliant with corporate law, such that when you want to start a business, for instance, now, you get a lawyer, the lawyer advises you, oh, adopt the structure, adopt that structure, employ this person, employ that person. And then when the business gets off the ground, he then advises you to the, oh, you need to comply with this, you need to submit this document to this government agency, you need to employ this person. So in a nutshell, corporate law is like the law of business and basically helps businesses across different sizes go from point A to point B on a day-to-day basis. I hope I was able to confuse and not confuse everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, no, excellent. Yeah, good explanation. Thank you. Just to mention before Timothy speaks that if you go to our website and if you like our website, then Timothy is responsible. If you do not like the website, he is responsible. So Timothy, please could you let us know what a software engineer does?
And you didn't have to put me on the spot.
Sorry, sir.
Well, I'm going to try to make this as easy as possible. And I think the most relatable thing is a website, right? And so what I do on a day-to-day basis is I build, we call it applications, right? I'm sure everyone here knows what an application is. When you pull up any smartphone, you see an app, right? So my specialty, because there are many branches of software engineering, is I build applications that you can use using a browser, right? So my day-to-day is a bit more trickier to explain. That's why I'm starting with something that you might be familiar with. So the websites you visit was built by a software engineer. The software, the applications on your phones was built by a software engineer. This Zoom call that is possible with the video streaming was made by a software engineer, basically, right? So how we do that is something that is a bit more deep, but you can think of it as this. I'm trying to find like the most, like, I'm trying to use an analogy so it makes sense to you, right? And so you can think of my job writing software as basically typing a lot of text, and what this text does is when you give this text to a computer gives you something as an output, right? Basically. So that is a very technical explanation, but I think probably the easiest way for you to understand what software engineers do is by when you see any kind of software, anything that seems like it's smart, the lights that go on and off that on their own was programmed by a software engineer. The artificial intelligence that you see, the AIs that you hear about these days, was programmed by a software engineer. The televisions, your smart TV runs software. The software engineer wrote the software that runs there. So anything electronics, any electronics that even your cars, every single thing that you know and use that has some kind of, like, it has a bit of smart behavior. Not really, really smart, but then you can maybe push a button and it does something on its own, was probably programmed by a software engineer. So, and basically this is what I do every day, but I am more focused on the rental industry. So we work on writing software that people that rent houses and landlords that want to rent out their houses can use to sort of accelerate their businesses, right? So yeah, that's it. I hope it's clear.
Simple enough for me. I hope it's simple enough for the kids as well. But yeah, if I please.
So before I go, let me crack a joke. My kids say that my job is to always be on calls and drink coffee. But I promise you, that's not my job. I don't drink coffee for a living. So let me break it into, so to try to explain what I do, I think I will talk about different elements, because my job, some people that do what I do either just marketing and brand management or just business management. But because of the way my organization is set up, I do both marketing and business management. So it's like each brand within my organization is think of it as a business. So Milo is a business, Golden Mon is a business, Maggie is a business. Now, when it comes to the business, let me make it very simple. In very basic terms, I'm responsible for, one, ensuring that we're growing every year. So let's say we sold 100 cartons this year. I'm responsible for making sure next year, maybe we sell 120 or 150. We sell way more than that, by the way, but I'm using that as an example. I'm responsible not just for selling, but making sure that we make profit. I don't know if you've done in your respective schools, you've done profit and loss, but when you make something, you put a little bit of money on top of it, you sell it, that difference is your profit, making it very, very simple. So responsible for delivering profit. So activities that are my day-to-day, for example, I determine the price of the product. So pricing is a very complicated process, but to keep it simple for you, when you go into the market and Milo is 150 naira a sachet. This is a person that decided that, of course, based on a lot of data and all of that, so that people are not, but pricing is one. Another aspect as well, the more funds of, well, the site that most people like is also advertising. So responsible for overseeing development of our campaign. So whatever you see on TV or you hear on radio or you see on like when on digital, so what you see on Facebook, Instagram, all of that. I don't do it alone, by the way. I have a full-fledged team, but I'm responsible for the team that does that. Also, as well, ensuring that our brand is in, I'm trying to borrow Daniel's terms, but I don't want to use compliance, but ensuring that our brand is seen in a good light. So we have more positive things around the brand versus negative. Another thing that we do as well is I'm trying to use simple terms. I was about to say below, but activation. So, for example, where I'm somewhere in Festac because we are, having a sporting activity with over 500 children and adults. And we use that because one of the ways we also connect to our consumers is one-on-one. When they say when you learn forms of communication, and this is going into why formal education is important, because when we learn forms of communication, they say one-on-one communication. I'm sure when we hear word of mouth and one-on-one, we always think like, so it's one person to one person. But what I'm doing, for example, is an example of a larger scale of one-on-one that will then be translated to a much more mass media. So yeah, this is a bit on my day-to-day. So I'm also responsible for the profit and loss account for my business. So I have to deal with factory, I have to deal with supply chain, I have to deal with. So I'm quite experienced in if you're thinking about, if you have questions around all the possible career streams, I can give you so many because I deal with a lot of people in different functions on a day-to-day basis. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ifeanyi. Very excellent information. The only thing I'm taking away from it is that if Milo increases in price, I'm dragging you. so that's one thing I'm taking away. Maybe not the only, but thank you for that. The next question we have here is, by the way, like when you're listening, children or anyone on this call, please feel free to jot down your question because there's going to be time for the speakers to address your questions. Okay, so the next question is, Daniel, you are a lawyer, right? I think this question is, I know the answer, but let me just ask it. You're a lawyer. Did you study law in university? Timothy, you're a software engineer. Did you study software engineering in university? And you're a marketing and brand manager. Did you study marketing, advertising, or anything related to that in university? If yes, then wonderful. If no, then how did you find your way to what you're doing today? Okay, let's start with Timothy.
Short answer is no. I didn't study software engineering in school. And so the other question is, how did I find my way into this industry? It's a very I mean, this is not a very straightforward. It doesn't have a straightforward answer, basically. But I am a self-taught software engineer, and that means that I learned everything I know from the internet, basically, and with YouTube and online courses, and also a lot of books, right? And so it took me quite some time to do that. And this is something that is not. I mean, it's possible for a career like software engineering that you can do that, and you don't necessarily need to, study software engineering in school to become a software engineer, which is good. But I guess we're going to come to the part where we're going to talk about, whether that is good or whether that is bad. But the short answer is, yeah, I somehow learned this stuff and somehow got into this career, and here I am. That's it.
Thank you. Just before I let Ifeanyi go ahead, I loved what you said about learning from YouTube, from books and all of that. I think 3-4 sessions ago we spoke about the importance of what you're using your phone to do, right? Like using your phone to do things you know will benefit you, using your phone to do things you know will benefit your future. Fola is asking Timothy what you studied in school in the chat. You can just say that out loud for.
Yeah, so I have a national diploma in electrical engineering, and yeah,
Okay.
that's it.
Okay, so electrical engineering for that. So I'm going to come to you. Same question, please.
Great. So did I study marketing, brand, blah, blah, school? Yes and no, and I'll explain why. My first degree is in biochemistry, so I have a science background. My second degree is an MBA, and I specialized in marketing. So that's why that is a yes and no. But by the way, I say this as well to motivate that, in my class, my MBA class, I went in greenhorn. I needed to learn something new. Unlike Timothy, I didn't really, I thought like I needed some sort of a base if I wanted to switch. So I went to do my MBA in marketing, and I graduated top of the class, and I got considerable amount of money for that as well, doing that. So it's just again to say that we can also switch. And why did I switch out of biochem? I think in my third year, I don't know if I should say this story because I hope it doesn't scare anyone. But in my third year, I really didn't want to go to school anymore. I was done, done, and I said I was not doing it again. And I remember when I told my mom, she may not even remember this story, but she told me, okay, come home and just come and relax for like 2 weeks. The message they sent me in that 2 weeks, Jesus, I packed my bag. I went back to school after. Yeah, but it's a bit of a joke, but yeah, but by the time I was finishing my degree, I knew that I wasn't going to do core biochem or laboratory work. But maybe when we get into the course of the discussion, I will tell you where I see my educational background come to life, even in what I do today. So that's the answer.
Thank you, Ifeanyi, for that. And again, I'm happy that about some things that are coming up. The last fireside chat we had an actress who studied geography, and she spoke about how geography and what she studied now impacts her acting. So again, and this is something that is very important for Nigeria, where sometimes as a child you want to study X. Your parents say, Zelayo, you must study Y. And it's hard to convince them otherwise. It's good for you to hear stories like Ifeanyi's, stories like the actresses, because you know that somehow it's never that far gone that you cannot find your way back to where you want to be. Hopefully your parents agree for you to pursue that thing you're interested in in the first place. But again, we'll get, I think we had a talk on that place of, your parental influence, but let me leave that. But again, it's nice to see that you can find your way back. So last but not the least, Daniel, I kept you last because I think your answer is a straightforward answer. It's a straightforward answer, but did you study law in university?
Yes, I did. Better also. But I just add a bit of context into it. So I did law, of course. I do engineering and I done law too. But most of the work I do right now, it's not exactly what I learned in school. It's still law. Like they give me the degree to actually practice. I've had to do a number of courses, a lot of learning. I not like YouTube because I really learn more from YouTube person. I've had to do a number of like for every I have like a curriculum of stuff I want to cover, a lot of reading and everything else. So because I mostly work in finance space, so in Nigeria I had to do for an investment banking course and then going to another course in like I'm not like an English, but like a crash course in business. So why I did law, not give me like the entry point into it. So I studied law and also have like other experience outside of like, a lot of
Okay, great. That's wonderful to hear. And I think that gives context for the fact that, you can start off with one thing, but just getting a first degree in the world we are today is not enough. You have to keep learning, you have to keep building on it. You say you're a lawyer, okay, you get a law degree. What type of law? You want to be a corporate lawyer. In what space? The finance space. Now you need to learn a lot of finance things. Oh, okay. From finance, you want to go into, I want to work more with NGOs and all those things. Now you have to learn about how those operate. So honestly, you never stop learning, and I think this then brings us to that topic of, and let me just pause here to say, when I say formal education, because I know we do not define it, we mean formal as in going to the universities, going to, a formalized school system, right? That's what we mean. So you apply, they tell you, why do you want to do this? I want to do this because this. Oh, do you have the grades? You show you scored, they admit you. You stay 3 years, you stay 4 years, you graduate, and you come out, and now you have the degree from that university. That's what we mean by formal education. So I'm going to go straight into the gist of today, which is how important is formal education, right? And I'm going to ask a simple question. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 to 10, how important would you say, starting with Ifeanyi, how important would you say formal education is, especially with, what we know today about Nigeria, because we're speaking to Nigerian kids, the Nigerian context, right? So how important on a scale of 1 to 10 would you say? And please, just in advance, I don't want to hear it depends. Sorry, but no, it would be great to hear, like, taking into consideration all the dependencies. How important would you say?
To be honest, I'm one of those people that is strongly challenging the formal education system today. Maybe I'm coming from the angle of a parent. So I actually have relatively different views from a number of people. So on a scale of 1 to 10, today, where will I place formal education? I will place it on a 6, just slightly above half. And the reason I do that is because, just like Daniel mentioned, we cannot shy away from the fact that in a lot of career choices now, formal education is an entry point. In a lot of career choices, there are now career choices because, again, as the world is evolving and changing, jobs are changing, requirements for the jobs are changing. I think the only thing that's not changing as fast maybe is the educational system, but you still need the education to access and gain that entry point, and then you can start to build on the other learning experiences. So I would say for me, a 6.
Thank you. Timothy.
Well, first of all, I sometimes I don't consider myself as someone that actually got a complete formal education because I only spent 2 years in higher institution. But I would actually go as high as 9 out of 10, right? Yeah. And there is a reason why I went that high, because I think that there is I mean, it's not black and white, right? And there's something that Ifeanyi said that is important, in terms of maybe in terms of succeeding in your career, formal education is just an entry point. So from that point of view, I would also give it a 6, right? Actually, because even after your formal education, you need to be able to learn new things. That's just the age that you're in. You have to learn more. And I mentioned it earlier. So this is very important. But as a society, so let's now take a step back and look at the big picture. The society that we're in was built around formal education. Maybe you studied a lot at home and you know your beans, but someone that did the same thing, maybe went to an Ivy League school like Harvard or Stanford and stuff like this, and they present this paper, the society will give them more respect than you, even if you know more than them. So in this aspect, it's a bit political. So in that aspect, then I would say, if you can afford formal education, like really, really high quality one, do it. if you can even get just for the sake of the certificate, do it. It will get you really far, not just in your career, but in a society as a whole. So this is my thoughts on it.
Interesting. Thank you. Daniel, what would you say?
Okay, so me, I would personally just rate it as a 7. Yeah, it's just a 7. I'm going to say 7.7. So I think it's very important. But I have some observations, especially about the way Nigerian curriculum is structured. And speaking of structure, for me personally, I think the major thing formal education does for a person is it gives them structured thinking. It's a structured thinking, structured thinking, structured learning. Like you get routines. Like you know how okay, I'm meant to do this, I'm meant to learn this. It's like a touch point between you and where you need to be. Like it won't get you there, but if you start you up on that, especially when you're like Nigeria, because like what I mentioned, paper is very important, but paper is not everything. There's some other skills you need to learn as you go along. And our education skill, it gives you that first step. It pushes you in the right direction. Then you have to take some better steps. But at least it allows you enter and then take and start the journey. So yeah, 7.7 from here.
Okay, so thank you. All good scores, I think. If you have a 6 out of 10, you've passed an exam. If you have a 9 out of 10, you're getting an award. So, I think there's a balance. That's wonderful. Daniel, you said something that actually you and Timothy said something that leads me to 2 other questions, but I'll start with yours, right? You spoke about the structure of formal education in Nigeria, right? I'm a lawyer, and I know that even before we get to the idea of specialization, I know one thing we all struggled with coming out of university, coming out of law school, and trying to now practice is that what you ordered is very different from what you got, right? Like from the perspective of what you're taught in school is wildly different from what actually happens and operates. And this is not a situation of like, oh, the skills you have to learn, blah, blah, blah. It's a situation that the way our educational system is structured in Nigeria does not necessarily support you in the workplace, right? So from that perspective, having said that and having that in your background, in the back of your mind, would you say then that a child in Nigeria today, apart from the entry point thing, a child in Nigeria today, knowing the way education is structured, knowing more than the structure, we have the things with the strikes, we have the things with all of the, appurtenances, so would you still advise or would you still encourage and would you still give that score of a 7 or a 7.5 as you said it? Does that change anything or would you, does that slightly affect it,
But definitely, it definitely affected, but in the wrong direction. So it goes down to like 5 or 4.5 to be honest. Because I like the fact that you mentioned what I ordered and what I got because it's a very large extent when you live in the Nigerian educational system and you go into the world, there's this culture shock between what you and what's actually valued. Okay, there are like a lot of soft skills. And it leaves you quite short-handed because the world is not asking you for what you got out of school, asking you for what you know. And then in some way, you're almost entering the workplace being a bit barefooted. And for lawyers especially, for the first year of your career, first 3 years, you have to learn the ropes really quickly. You have to learn soft skills. You have to learn time management. You have to learn a bunch of things. And even as you go along in my office, for instance, now, we have a lot of entry level people, and then we have like courses that they have to take that actually prepare them properly for the workplace, talk about KPIs and everything else. And it's in several ways. And I think it's like an entire Nigerian thing. We have a lot of uphill tasks, right from birth to whenever that we have. Then there's a lot of skills you have to jump across because you, first of all, you're not given the proper education, and political and educational system. But those are conversations for a different day. So I'll say it's a 4.5 from me because when I consider some of the things I have had to learn and have had to do like in recent years, it doesn't leave you with what you need exactly. And I think just throw this in, there's an article I was reading fairly recently by Timi Ajiboye, the founder of now defunct Bike. He was talking about how even as software developers, even as professionals, have to think for the global audience, not just for Africa. Because if you think just for your immediate environment, you would only go so far, not further. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if our other speakers have anything to add to that, or I can ask the next question to. Oh, okay.
I mean,
okay. No, if
I was going to say that Daniel is right, and for me, my education. So as I speak, my education has been primarily in Nigeria. And public, apart from the only private institution I attended was primary school. I attended the public secondary school, I attended the public university. And I would say that this is one of the reasons why I challenge the overall educational system is challenged, but even more so challenged within Nigeria. And I just want to, the reason I actually unmuted to make a point is it's back to what you probably said you guys discussed a while ago. Make no mistake, as a Nigerian student, and I'm speaking to the students in the room, make no mistake, as a Nigerian student, you are already in a competition where, unfortunately, you are swimming against the odds. You are already, it's like a relay race. You know, when a relay race, let me paint a picture. When a relay race starts, it's like your competitors have started running a minute or 30 seconds before you, and you started running. So if you are going to win that race, you have to run faster, you have to make more efforts, you have to make, like, you just have to put in the work to stand out. So you have to, on your own, connect with what your counterparts in other parts of the world. Today, what are secondary school students in the UK or the US or whatever exposed to? And your phone or your gadgets have given you that access. So yes, we have a disadvantage, but I want to say that nobody is going to, JuCE is trying to fix it to a large extent. But already at this stage, you have to take responsibility for wanting to set yourself up for a better future. That's the point I wanted to make.
Thank you, Fine. And yeah, thank you for also mentioning that about JuCE, because this disadvantage is really what we want to try to support kids to do, right? Like we said, please mute when you come in. Like we said, like you said, right? Your counterparts in other parts of the world are already much further ahead. So, and you must take responsibility. JuCE can give you the tools, like we're doing now, bringing Ifeanyi, bringing Timothy, bringing all of these people. But if after they finish speaking to you, you go and you throw everything away. Oh, okay, I came. It's nice. Nothing comes out of it. If after we finish speaking to you and equipping you, you don't on your own want to push, and like they said, they themselves came out of school and they're still pushing. You keep learning, right? So if you don't on your own take those steps, then unfortunately, what Ifeanyi said is the case. So please engage with JuCE to help you to make sure that if a Chinese, an Indian, an American, and UK secondary student is placed, you are competing, and if possible, even better, right? So thank you for that question, Ifeanyi. Sorry, thanks for that answer or response rather. Timothy, I'm going to ask you, right? Because you mentioned Harvard and all of these very prestigious schools and what a degree from those places mean for you, right? And this is a question that the average child or the average person who tells you, I don't want to go to school, they'll tell you, Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, Richard Branson, these are some of the world's richest people, in case the kids don't know who I'm talking about. Bill Gates produces all PCs, all personal laptops. So the laptop in front of you today could be Bill Gates. He don't get formal education. Richard Branson is the owner of Virgin Atlantic Airlines. He's also the owner of a bunch of businesses. One of the richest men in the world, no formal education. Jay-Z, one of the richest men in the world. In fact, Jay-Z's own is even worse. No formal education. Let me mention a few more people just to set the pace. Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook, Instagram, no formal education. Again, one of the richest people. Coco Chanel, okay, one of the biggest brands in the world. A Chanel purse goes for $4,000, $5,000. Okay, one of the smaller ones. No formal education. So the question you often get then when you say that, well, I know so many people who are so successful and they haven't had formal education. Why do I have to go? Okay, so what's the answer to that? Noting the importance or the premium you've placed on. In fact, just to say, I think Mark Zuckerberg was in Harvard or one of the top schools, and he dropped out to create Facebook, right? So this school you've given this accolade. So what would you say to that? How would you advise that kid?
Well, the names that you mentioned, like hopefully the kids are also know about these people because they are a very important part of the world as we know it today. Well, and look, to me, what that should tell you is that being successful and formal education is not tied. You can still be successful without having formal education. Now, the point of formal education is to set you up to be successful, basically, right? So it is important that you understand this, right? But while that is so, you have to also know that you're not Bill Gates, you're not Mark Zuckerberg, and most importantly, you are in Nigeria, right? And I think there's a bit of a noise in the background. And Mark Zuckerberg dropped out of Harvard. Do you know what that means too? That he even goes to Harvard in the first place, you know? And someone like Bill Gates as well dropped out from one of these big schools. So they have very rich parents. First of all, like if your parents has $1 million in the bank, don't worry, don't go to school. Just I'll be the one that will tell you, just go to any small school that you want and take that money and do something with it, right? So it's you have to also think about your own situation. The fact that you're in Nigeria puts you in a disadvantage, first of all. Now, the other thing that I want to mention is we are in the 21st century, and when these people did this thing, it was the last century. This was like in the 90s and maybe in the 80s. That was when Bill Gates. I think Bill Gates was around the 80s, and at the time it was about computers, completely new technology. The world didn't know about it. And you mentioned someone like Mark Zuckerberg as well. This was it's called during the internet, like I forgot what that thing is called, but this was when the internet was new. There was nothing like it was just a few people that knew about the internet. It wasn't really common. So these guys, they got into this, right? And then that's how they basically, they made it, right? So now they did not get a formal education, but they had an education. They had an education. This is very important, right? And to have the access to the kind of education that put them in that position to do so well, right? I'm speaking mostly from the angle of Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg because I know these people's history, so I can tell you how they were lucky. I will just use that word. They were lucky. Simply put, they were just lucky. They got lucky, and trust me, if there are like 10 people that decided, okay, I want to be Mark Zuckerberg, I'm going to drop out from school, I'm pretty sure that 9.5 out of them would never ever get to that level. Like, it's not, just don't even bother, So formal education is meant to give you a better chances of actually getting to where you want to go to, right? So it's pretty important to look at it like that. And in the end, what really matters is the skill you have, the education you give yourself, right? So you can acquire these skills without going to a school, right? This can happen. You can actually do that, especially in this day and age with the internet and all of it. You can do that, right? But it's much, much harder to do. It's really harder to do, especially if you are starting late and especially if you don't have direction, right? I think it was Daniel that mentioned it. If you go to a school will give you some kind of direction, right? Maybe you go there and hopefully you meet a good professor or a teacher like that. They will give you better direction. The good schools are much more equipped to sort of give you the right things to study. If I told you today, okay, what are the things you need to know to maybe become a software engineer? It's easy to go to the internet and maybe look up something, right? But there are careers, maybe something like this Chanel person that you mentioned. I don't really know about him, right? And I don't know how he did it and how he got to where he is. But that's a much more tricky thing to do, right? So the point is that you need an education, right? Somehow you need an education. Now, what to actually study and what to actually do, and if you have the discipline to study on your own for 10 years, because you have to be willing to study for that long, is now a different question. And going to an official school makes your answer easier, because if you go to a school, they know what you need and that's what they will give you. Most of the time it's just an introduction, and you have to learn the rest. But come on, by then you're already on the path and you probably have a lot more information of where you want to go. So So yeah, that's it.
Okay. Does anyone would if I or Daniel wants to comment on that? I have a comment, but I would like you guys to go first as well.
Just a very brief comment on what Timothy said. He's very right because although those guys didn't go to like how he didn't okay, Zuckerberg dropped out of Harvard. And I think Steve Jobs was also dropped, I think from Stanford or something. So they had like significant privilege that allowed them to do the things they did because if you can start Facebook from your dorm room in Harvard, you have some exposure. You just don't want to finish. And I think he went back and I think he got like an honorary degree at the end of the day. And a bunch of them did go back. And so I think the journeys are different for different people. So for someone like Zuckerberg, like he had people that allows him to drop out. For someone like JC is not schooled at all, but he had a significant amount of exposure that allowed him to do the things he did and actually navigate his journey to some extent. And then Uncle, you mentioned Coco Chanel. For example, I can't remember the exact gender of Coco Chanel, but then they had some exposure. And then you see these like who have different careers and different paths that allowed them to do without formal education. But for people from most Nigeria, for instance, now, we don't have that privilege to say, oh, I'm going to school. Because you need some level of more education to at least navigate the world in your early years. You can't be like Lewis Hamilton now that although he's from like a very less privileged background, he had exposure to Formula One at a very young age, and now he's a 7-time world champion. So even they're like, so I think it's a very layered conversation, and they also have to adjust for the Nigerian context too.
Thank you. If I
Yeah. So I'll two perspectives for me. The first one, I think Timothy and Daniel have done justice to it. A lot of these people referenced come from a place of privilege. So a lot of times we emphasize the fact that they did not have formal education. But the truth is that they had access to a lot of things. It's not just money because people think privilege is money. It's access to the right people, the right structure, the right information. Today, the reason you're going to school is because you're trying to access information that you can translate to a relevant use. Now, for people who may have access to that same education from an unstructured approach, well, it's fine. You can explore. Now, the second angle is in Nigeria, there has become an over glorification of entrepreneurship. And it is because I have the opportunity to be both. I work in a structured environment. I'm also an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur, essentially a business owner. So there is an over glorification of wanting to be the one that starts a tech company. Now everybody wants to start a tech company. Everybody wants to start an app. Everybody wants to start a company. There's a guy's story I like so much. I think his name is Adam. Please, for Timothy in tech, I don't know if but if I say the story, you probably know who I'm talking about. I think his name is Adam, and he used to be the head of design at Apple, right? Adam used to be Steve Jobs, like right-hand man, like his guy. Before he actually left Apple to start a design company that services Apple and a lot of companies. But he served Apple for over 20-something years. Now, a lot of times people emphasize Steve Jobs' story. People talk, but there would be no Steve Jobs or Apple without Adam and without several other people, by the way, in Apple that have formal education that Apple is leveraging. So please, everybody will not be the leader. It's okay. There's a concept, and I encourage you to read it. There's a book around the concept of the importance of the first follower. The first follower is actually more important than the leader because the first follower determines that other people will follow. So you, in determining your career, in thinking about what you want to do, don't feel bad if somebody sitting in your class says they want to start a tech company. You don't have to want to start a tech company. It is equally a great ambition to want to move a company to another level. Right? You can be a leader. You don't have to, not everybody will be the owner. So I think a lot of times, because those people we always point at, and that's the thing, maybe Ada as JuCE as well. Maybe you also need to do help by giving people examples of first followers, giving people examples of solid career people. Look at the lady today that has taken over, I think, to be CEO of Zenith Bank. Look at her journey and her pedigree. So there are several examples. So you have options. Formal education, school, it gives you, my husband likes to say this, just give yourself options. Point A, point B. But what's wrong with having 10 options and then you now have the liberty of choosing one versus that one that maybe will work, maybe it won't work.
Thank you so much for that wonderful perspective. If I really, really, really enjoyed it. And I'm really happy you spoke about the fact that, well, Timothy spoke about it and Daniel as well. First of all, that place of privilege, you know, but secondly, those people they did not do it all alone. They were not, you know, in fact, with Facebook, he still hired many of his classmates from Harvard, you know, and then the example you've given as well. Just to speak on the privilege points, there's a book I love called Outliers to Success. I think that's the name of it. And it told the story of Bill Gates, but also the story of some of the most successful people in the world. Now, Bill Gates was born in 1995, but before, as at the age of 9 years old, this was, so I guess around 1964, 65, Bill Gates was already in a private school that had a computer. In that time, there were maybe 3, 4 computers in the US. You know, like when you hear computer, then it's like stuff that was very niche, very specific. But as at 9 years old, the private school Bill Gates was in had computers. He wrote his first line of code at 13. Even his classmates at 13 years old, they did not know what computers were. So it was a right place, right time. And that talks about privilege. If you know you don't have that access at that level and degree, and when we say privilege, I love that Ifeanyi said it's not just money, it's that access, it's that insight. If you've not been a forerunner, again, Elon Musk is someone that is spoken about a lot, all the incredible mind-blowing things he's doing with a formal education. But the question again is, Elon Musk and his grandfather, as young as he was 10, 11, 12, they were building together rockets and flying them. What were you doing at 10 years old? You know, and these are very interesting things to think about from that place of, it's one thing to mention these people, but if you investigate their stories, if you read their stories, they've been getting university level education from when they were children, just unknowingly. So if you know that hasn't been your story or that's not your experience, please don't compare yourselves to them. And just to a third point on what Ifeanyi said about first follower, do not romanticize or be in a hurry to pass a process. School, I don't have time. I think that's a thing at home as well. We do it a lot in Nigeria. A child is doing well. Let him jump to primary 6. Why is he doing primary 3, 4, 5? He's jump, you know? Or you get to JSS, you're in SS1, you're a smart kid. What's the point of SS2 and 3? Go and do jump, go and jump. There is something to learn from every stage in life. And if you jump it at that point, you will come back and learn it you will come back and learn it somewhere else, you know? So yeah, so that's just something to note. I wanted to point that out. Okay, I can see that you're asking to record. I'm currently recording, and I can share the recording with you if you would like. So that it's not like, I don't know if I allow now it will trip off this recording. But yeah, so very interesting conversation. Even someone else has said that on the chat. I have another question then, and this is a question we got 4 sessions ago, or 3 sessions ago rather. We had an SS3 student, I think, on the call who said, I'm not interested in formal education. I want to do business. You know, so you spoke about that romanticization of entrepreneurship. You know, I love that you spoke about it because I have a theory that the poverty in Nigeria really makes everyone have to chook hands somewhere. Even with a 9 to 5, you still have to find so many subsidizations. And also the quality of our education means that sometimes you come out, you've studied law, no law firm to employ you. You've studied this, no this to employ. So now you say, okay, I'll start selling hair, or I'll start selling this, I'll start selling that. But I always speak about the fact that the poor customer service we have in Nigeria now, the fact that you text someone, they will start insulting you, both of you start fighting. It's a consequence of you enter entrepreneurship, no knowledge of business, no knowledge of customer care, no knowledge of what it takes. But just to go back to the question I wanted to ask, what would you advise this young man, right, who is interested in this type of thing? And when talking about that, I'm going to couple the question. Let's speak about the niche of people who they make these choices because of lack of funds and lack of opportunity, right? Because that's a reality we have to consider. So what would you advise him? What would you advise then the child who might be interested but doesn't have the opportunity in terms of finances from parents and support and all of that? And thirdly, you know, how then, we've spoken a lot about this thing of using YouTube, using this, using that. How then can they really learn to get to that place without that formalized system? Okay, so I'll let you go first, Ifeanyi, then we go to Timothy and Daniel. Thank you.
Okay, great. Very layered question. Now, my simple advice, let me start from if he solely wants to stop his education because he believes business is not required in education, or education is not required to do business, then I would advise him to go ahead with a formal education. Now, let me explain why. Today, a lot of what you have in Nigeria, they are not businesses. They are just, I don't know, will I call it, buying and selling? We are just transacting. Daniel will smile because currently, if you open the corporate, what was it called? CSC, you can count the number of businesses that even managed to get business names first. So a lot of people go into business. They don't. Now, let me also shock you. I am Igbo, so let me use our people as example. At least you know that as far as Nigeria is concerned, when you talk about business without formal education, you can point to the Igbos. But do you know that there is an education system in place for trading? It's just that it's not formalized. And that is the internship system. And it is not, see, if you go to Alaba, for example, you want to get a shop in Alaba, you just go, you open shop in Alaba. I give you 6 months, you close that shop. It's not a curse because there's the rudiments of the business. You have to understand, you need to understand margin. You need to understand profit. You need to understand costing. You need to understand sourcing. You need to understand procurement. You need to understand supply chain. Now, everything I'm mentioning to you, you can learn in a formalized setting. You can learn in an informal setting. So my advice to him would be, you shall have to learn it. What sets you apart in a formal setting is that you then have the structured thinking that Daniel, see, today I did Balchem. One of the things that stands me out in marketing today is that I am not wired like the typical market. There's stereotypes even in career. You have the typical marketing person, you have the typical finance person, you have the typical. I'm not wired the typical marketing. I'm very organized. I'm very proactive. I'm very data oriented. I'm very one cause equal consequence, because in Balchem, we learned that action creates reaction. So even though I am not mixing phenol and what have you in the lab, that same approach to this plus this gives you this informs my thinking. It's the same thing in my business. The way I attend to people, the way I engage, the way I even get customers today. Own a mom and pop shop does. So my advice to him is, if he can access education, he has nothing to lose. While you're actually going to school, you can at the same time be doing an internship in the business line. You may just discover that you don't like that business. So by the time you intern there, you will see that you may not like it. It may be difficult. It may just be what you may just be, because you don't know. You are assuming. All of us, when we were in secondary school, I'm sure if you ask Daniel and Timothy what they are doing today, they probably said 8 other things At least me, I know. I wanted to be many things. I wanted to be a fashion designer. I wanted to be a hairdresser. I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be every mood. I had different moods for what I wanted to be. So those things give you option. For the person who may not have access, what I will say is, even in Nigeria, our biggest problem is lack of information. Even in Nigeria, it will shock you that there's access. You can get access to a lot of scholarships, bursaries. I remember when I was in uni, everyone from Niger Delta, I'm not from Niger Delta, but the students from Niger Delta, from certain parts of the country, used to access bursaries. And there are people that are from that part of the country that did not know that they could access a bursary. So you need to open yourself up to possible information. And then finally, access public education. Public education is the cheapest form of education today. Start with that. Start with trying to access public education. That would be easier to maneuver.
Okay, thank you so much, Ifeanyi. Very salient points raised. I love I'm just going to comment on two things, and then I'll hand over the mic. I love that you spoke about the Igbo entrepreneurship system, and just to speak on that, I think I've said this before in a JuCE meeting. In business school today at Harvard, the Igbo entrepreneurship system has been taken up to be studied because it's recognized in the world as one of the most successful and the most there's a word for it, that the most successful ways of creating long-lasting businesses, right? And it's not the recognition is not that Harvard has taken it up. The recognition is that this is a system that works. In Igbo, like we call it Nwa boy, right? You do Nwa boy 10 years, 15 years, you're serving your oga, you're going, you're sourcing, you're learning, you're doing, but in those 15 years, after he sets you up with your shop, that is education. Whether or not you choose to see it, that is education. There you learn how to get your goods, if it's an import-export business, get your goods from the port, who to speak to, how to interact with those people at the point. There's an attitude, you go to customs, your goods will sleep there for 50 years. You don't learn that. In fact, they don't even teach you that in school. They don't even teach you that in school. And that's the second part I love that Ifeanyi said, even if you're in a formal system, as much as possible, get internships. And this is why JuCE is here as well. We don't just want to expose you to, you can be a marketer because these are the exciting things. You can be a software engineer. Today, we had a talk 4 weeks ago about things to do during your holiday. The Nigerian typical system is summer lesson, long vacation lesson. Take your holiday to say, I want to be a lawyer. Let me see what law firm is around me. I can go and chook my head for 1 week, 2 weeks. Do I even like what they're doing? I have a friend who studied accounting, came out, and he said if he had seen how accountants were living as a child, he would never have done accounting. Now he's in marketing and he loves face-to-face interactions and all of that. That just one day of stepping into an accounting company could have told him that for free, and he would have avoided that. So formal education does not remove the need for the informal, just so you know. That place of going for the internship, that place of going to learn, that place of seeing who is already doing it, how are they doing it, how do I, asking questions, very important, So thanks, Ifeanyi, for making those points. I just wanted to highlight it. And finally, another point you made was about bursary. And again, this is one of the importance of JuCE, right? There are some people, I always give this example of, I have a friend in the US now who got a scholarship based on running. She's this excellent runner. She runs so well. The school sponsored her, gave her scholarship based on running. So throughout her 4 years in uni, she was running for the school competitively. I attended a public secondary school, Queen's College, Lagos. I know many of my classmates who were excellent runners, but nobody ever assessed that opportunity. It's a lack of information. It's a lack of knowledge, right? And this girl was from a family who couldn't pay fees, but today she's had some of the best education in the world based on something she did naturally. Again, this is what we're preaching at JuCE. It doesn't come when you're in SS3 already and you start making all of that. No, it comes from you thinking, like Ifeanyi said, very intentionally, because you're Nigerian and you're already a few steps behind. So intentionally, what can I do? How can I get there? How can I place myself? again, one of the reasons why JuCE is here. So I'm making this points and connecting it to JuCE so that you see the ways we can help you. And hopefully you can take this and, push us to even say, oh, I'm interested in XYZ. Can you find me a mentor? We're here to do that for you, right? So sorry to go off on that tangent. I'm going to come to Timothy and Daniel if they have things to add to what Ifeanyi has said on the idea of a child who says, I want to just be an entrepreneur. And, with the nuance of access, maybe his parents don't have the money, he cannot pay for it. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I can go first. I don't know, Daniel, if you have something, but I'll try to keep my contribution quite short because I think Ifeanyi's response was very comprehensive. I really liked the way she structured the whole thing. And the fundamental question here is why? Why do you not want to go to school? And if your answer is I feel like I don't need it, then just know that you're wrong. You do need it, right? But if the other answer is I cannot afford it, now this is a very different reason, right? So I would definitely advise you to find ways. There are so many other ways to acquire this the knowledge that you need, and one of them was mentioned here, which is the apprenticeship system, which is a good way for you to learn about how businesses work, and you can just piggyback off other people's experience, right? So but yeah, school will give you a lot of things, right? And for sure it will make you to think differently if you really take it seriously. And so that if you can afford to go to school, right, don't go to school because you want to fulfill all righteousness or just because you want to get the certificate and be done with it. No, you are going to school because you want to learn. If you go to school, you have to learn. You have to, not just the material that you get from your professors or teachers, but even the people that you're going to meet. You're going to meet people and mingle with the right people and get some kind of exposure. Maybe when you get to school, you are going to meet somebody that the father has a big business in the thing that you're interested in. You could also rub off from this person and even learn more, right? And something that I noticed as well, and I'm mentioning this because it was brought up here, and that is like the Igbo business model, right? I have a classic example. I'm not sure if it's Igbo, but this GIGM motors, what the son of the owner, the original owner, did today for me it's a classic example of how formal education can elevate a business that has been around for a while. And this is also the danger I see with learning from, in the apprenticeship. If you go to apprenticeship, you only know what your boss knows. It's hard for you to actually do more and expand. But when you go to school, you study business, right? You actually see people, you actually learn a lot more, basically get more information. And this kind of puts you in a place where you can even expand. What did GIGM do now? They have a software team. I don't know how many car companies have a software team. They have software engineering team and they build software. Now there is GIGM logistics. Everything is like very much, connected because this person went to formal education and got exposed and he could improve his father's business. And what did that do? You're seeing the competitor seeing that, oh, looks like this person has taken it up a notch. And people like maybe GEO and other guys are now trying to also do something similar, right? So this is what formal education can give you. It can give you an edge over the competition. I have a friend that he studied biochem, but he started business after studying. The way he's running the business is different from the way his boss ran it. It's like completely different. And this comes back to that exposure, to that information. So the point of the school is to get information, to get exposure. So when you are there, hopefully you can afford it. This should be your goal. I want to learn. I want to really learn what the average retailer, and this is what I would call this thing that I said earlier, buying and selling. Many people, they're just into retail. Let's buy and sell. They go to a wholesaler, they buy and they sell, right? If you're fine to do that, trust me, it's perfect. Don't go to school. You don't need to go to school. Just do that and you're okay. But if you want to be a successful business, which I hope this is what you want, my advice is formal education will help you a lot more than you might think. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Timothy. Daniel.
I'll just very brief. One thing I'll just say it's very good.
Sorry,
Like
could
okay,
you increase your voice a little because you're quite
okay, okay. Sorry, I'll just lean back. Can you hear me better?
still a bit muffled, but go on, go on.
I don't know why that is. I think it's important. What I was saying is, it's always good to start with why. Start with why you want to do what you want, why you don't want to go to school. And to a large extent, yeah, the quality of the answer you give yourself will be determined by like how much exposure you have. And that's why school is important because you can only give yourself the right answer when you are asking yourself the right question. You don't know like where you want to go, like the point A and the point B of that question. And also just like it's also very important to like avoid survival bias because a lot of the time we say, oh, this business survived or that business survived. But they are outliers, you don't know how they got to that point. And then like Ifeanyi had mentioned, like many businesses you have in Nigeria, they're not scalable. They're not like great examples of how a business should run. For my day job, I do a lot of BD on a lot of companies. I can tell you for free that many founders in Nigeria, they are very educated, like very highly educated. Those who have like proper structured business, the piggy banks, the Flutterwave, they are really educated. Like PB of Flutterwave, his ex-access bank, he has a lot of education. He didn't just start and go Flutterwave just one suddenly. So education is actually important, especially like in this part of the world, because like Timothy had mentioned, if you are an entrepreneur, for instance, there's only so much you can learn from your boss. Because stuff that affects like market entry, let's say the five forces of peso, you will learn it from your boss because he might not even know what those things are. But if you want to have a genuinely scalable, sustainable business, you have to go to school. You have to have exposure. And you can only ask yourself the right question and give yourself the right answers if you know what to ask in the first place or you know what you're going to do. I'll just give that. That's my.
Thank you, Daniel. Love that point about asking yourself, the answer you give yourself to why you want to do something is very limited to your exposure. So yeah, sometimes you say, oh, this is why I want to, but that's not the right answer because you're not exposed to more things. So thank you for that. I'm going to ask one last question, which is a very open-ended question. And then we open it up for the kids in JuCE and Enugu to ask questions, if any. And that question is based on the conversation we've had today, based on the talks we've had. I've tried to ask some questions that I hope will trigger the minds of the kids on questions they can ask or things that would be important. But do you guys have any other general thoughts regarding this topic that you would like to share? Maybe something we haven't spoken about or something that is niche and specific to your experience that you think you would like to share with the kids, something, and it can be something like, this is something I would do differently if I had the opportunity, but, vis-a-vis formal, informal education, so do you guys have any of such thoughts you would like to share? I would start with who do I start with? Daniel. Seem to be moving around a lot, but I'll start with you and then. Sorry, you're muted.
Okay, cool. I'm back now. So I'm just doing one or two things in the house.
Okay.
So yeah, what did I say? Okay, so definitely okay, I'll give a bit of history. So growing up, I grew up in a house that was filled with books. And my mom was a teacher, she's retired now. So I was always quite curious and I like to read. So there was always Aloy likes to argue. That's my first name. Aloy likes to argue and she'd be a lawyer. I also wanted to be a pilot and a bunch of other things. So I think if I could do things a lot differently, I won't change so much. I'll just be a lot more curious. I think when I was in school, it was a bit of a culture shock for me moving from secondary school to 100 level. And you know how you can go from being like gifted child to now being like go from being a big fish in a small pond, now being in a big pond with many fishes of the same size as you. So that one thing you look out for like as you make the transition from secondary school to university. Because me, I struggled with it a lot and I didn't quite find my feet until like my third or fourth year. And by then I was pretty much done with the entire school process. So I'll say yes, be curious. Also be prepped for culture shock. But don't let the culture shock people like your audacity or your curiosity. Because in Nigeria, there's this thing that schools do a lot of the time when they're trying to like break your spirit and they make you fit into like certain boxes. And it's always very I don't know the right word is interesting, but you see it a lot of the time when people they go into school like they're very bright eyed and then come out the other way and they're a bit more docile, especially like in their minds. So I would say always be curious, like Steve Jobs would say, always stay hungry, stay foolish, stay willing to learn. And yeah, everything pretty much fine. So there'll definitely be bumps along the way. If I could do a lot of things differently, I would say I would have stayed more curious and less willing to like conform certain things. But of course, there's only so much you can rebel against. There's only so much you can do to rebel. So that'll definitely be it for me. Yeah.
Thank you, Daniel. Love that. Stay hungry, stay curious, stay hungry, stay foolish, and stay curious to learn. Yeah, I love it. Thank you. Ifeanyi, we're going to come to you. Any thoughts?
So a lot has been said, but I think I'll limit general thoughts to two things. There's look, our parents are not always right because, like we discussed, parents and everybody will always advise you based on the information that they have. However, our parents are also not always wrong because a lot of times, so what I want, the point I want to make is in this stage, you have the benefit of having a lot of collective wisdom in your life. You have your parents, you have your uncles, aunties, you have teachers, career counselors, if you have access to that. And I would say, don't throw it away. At the end of the day, like Daniel mentioned, the decision lies with you. And you need to always remember or decide on what keeps your spark alive. What makes you wake up at night? And do away with this dream that you will always love what you're doing. You need to love what you do, but you also need to remember that in the journey of doing what you do, there will be times when you don't like what you do, which is why your why is very, very important. Don't become a founder because the founder of Flutterwave drives a G-Wagon. So the only reason why you want to become a founder is because if the founder of Flutterwave tells you his story, you may just ask yourself. I give another example. There's a scripture that says, sorry, I'm quoting the Bible, but there's a scripture that says, godliness with contentment is great gain. Be content in your own dream. I had a friend that for the longest time I did not understand because she told me point blank, if I don't want the career that you have. It's too, like, I'm okay. She was in a particular role and I've been trying to push her to, because there were other opportunities. So I was trying to push her into other opportunities. And as a friend, I thought I was doing, I mean, you want to grow, everybody wants to grow in their career, right? But my friend told me, no, I don't want to grow now. I like going home early to spend time with my children. I like being involved in my children's life. I like having big parties. For the longest time, I struggled because I'm like, how unambitious can you be? But what I want to say is be satisfied in your dream. If your dream is an average life, you don't have to buy into the high-paced. I'm sorry, this may be very counterintuitive to what everybody in Nigeria says, but you don't have to buy into the high-paced, fast life dream. If your dream is to have some people, their dream is to be in their village, eat fresh food, drink fresh palm wine, and they are happy. So whichever dream it is that you have, contrary to Nigerian picture, it is valid. That's the point I wanted to make.
Thank you. Thank you. I love the point on contentment. Very, very important. And especially with, peer pressure and maybe feeling like, maybe I'm not doing enough, maybe. So that's really important. So thank you for that. Last but not the least, Timothy.
Very important points from Daniel and Ifeanyi. And so for me, I have three things, right? So if you have pen, write it down. And I'm sharing from my own experience, right? And to put into context, what I mean by my own experience is that today I'm working as a senior software engineer in one of Europe's biggest rental company, and I've worked as a technical lead for 2 teams. And in these teams, I have led people that have master's degree, and I don't have a bachelor's degree, so to speak. So what I'm sharing with you is what I believe really helped me. First of all, if you believe in God, hold God, because in the end, He's the one that will get you to wherever you want to get to in your life, right? So now, the first thing I want you to learn as you grow older is patience. Learn patience, right? This might not sound, it might sound not so important, but knowing how to be patient is important. And the next 2 points, you understand what I mean by that. So learn how to be patient. Patience. So just write it down. Patience. That's number one. Number two is you need to learn. So basically, number two is skills, right? Skills. And now the first skill that I would say everybody here, you know, wherever you probably are in your life, but especially for the kids that are still in school, you need to learn this, how to learn, basically. So the skill to learn and then unlearn and relearn. This is something that is famous. I don't know if you've heard it before, but this is very important. You need to learn how to learn. It's a skill. So know how to learn, right? And be patient. Now, this is where the patience comes in. So to be able to learn, you need to be patient. I studied for 4 years plus, 4 years. And when I say 4 years, this is not beans. I mean, I was working at the time, but for the 4 years straight, I was studying a lot. I did a lot of studies, and it was, and a lot of times was sleepless nights, and like it's a long story, but being able to learn and be patient in my learning is something that was huge, right? It's easy for you to say, okay, I've studied for 6 months, I need to get a job. Oh, I hate my job. Oh, this thing is too long. Listen, there is a saying that to be good at anything, you need to have studied that thing for 10,000 hours, right? So if you have not spent 10,000 hours on whatever it is you're doing, whether it is in your school or something else, you know you've not done enough work. And this is why patience is important. So number one, learn how to be patient. Don't chase the money at first, you know, be patient and then learn how to learn. Be good at learning. Learn from books, learn from people that you meet, learn from the internet, the good things. Don't let bad things. Learn good things, right? This is the second one. Now, the third one is, this is the other side of what Ifeanyi said. Dream big. Dream big. Like, don't even feel like, oh, I'm not a white man. Hey, oh, I'm not in the US. Oh, don't let any of that deter you. Dream big. If you want to build the next space company in Nigeria, don't even feel like you cannot do it. You can do it. Dream big, you know. And when you are dreaming big, if you are equipped with patience and you are equipped with knowing how to learn, unlearn, and relearn, you can do almost anything you want to do, you know. If you want to get to the, if you're going to aim as high as possible, you know, like this saying that aim for the sun, and if somehow you don't get to the sun, you get to the moon, that's still big. That's why it's important for you to dream big, you know. It's okay to not want to dream big, like Ifeanyi said, but it's also okay to want to dream big. Don't feel shy, don't feel intimidated about anything. You can learn anything you want to learn. And we are in the day and age where it is so easy for you to learn anything that you want to learn, anything with the advent of the internet. And they said we are in the information age, right? So I, probably us on this call, the speakers here, growing up, we only got access to this information age after we probably were adults already. But you have access to this information at a very younger age, you know. And something that Ada said, what would you change if you went back? If I would change anything, is that I got access to the information that I have now a lot earlier in my life. Maybe, like, if I knew some of the things I knew when I was like 15, for example, or 12, you know, this is the only thing I would change. So I would start earlier. So now you are lucky to be on this call today to hear this thing that I'm saying, right? So take learning serious. You have a big opportunity. And then whatever that you choose to do, even if you want to be an average person, be the best average person. This should be your goal. Try to be the best average person there is. If you want to be the best at mathematics or school, don't aim for second. Your goal should be for first. So let me recap. Learn patience, right? And then learn how to learn, unlearn, and relearn, right? And then finally, dream big and try to be the best, that you can be. And then the bonus points that I want to give you is these things that I mentioned, they are skills, right? They're not skills you can touch, but there are also skills that you can touch. For example, how to use a computer, how to press phone, how to post on social media. These things are hard skills. How to fix an electronic, how to do something. These skills is how society works, and in the end, it's not the paper that you get from formal education that will give you the money or success. It is the skill that you have. And I'm an example to this. People give me projects and a lot of money, and trust me, because they know what I can do. It's not because I show them paper. So as you're getting the paper, make sure that you also learn the raw skill. People pay you for the skill. So you give them skill and they give you money. This is the fundamental of society, nothing else. I'm sure that if I know this very, very well, it's what so you give them something, they give you back. Same thing with Daniel. Daniel is a lawyer. What does he do? He gives a skill. That's the service he gives you. And then you pay for it. So learn as many skills as possible as you can, because this is like the currency that will get you to wherever you want to go. So yes, and that's it.
Thank you, Timothy. Yeah, very insightful. When you said get a pen and paper, I grabbed my phone and I started taking notes. So yeah, I hope the kids, I hope you did the same. Like, very insightful. And there's a common thread amongst everything you guys said, which was, that curiosity, that learning, that having an open mind as a child. If I spoke about listening to what your parents are saying, they're not always 100% right, but they're not always 100% wrong. You have friends, you have JuCE, you have career advice, you have all this. Daniel said, stay curious, stay foolish, stay ready to learn, stay hungry to learn. And Timothy spoke, I really like the captioning of you learn. And there's a point you get to be like, ooh, you know what, let me tell a story. I was listening to a podcast recently, and it said, when you ask an average person 1 + 1, the answer that you get is 2. And if a child says 1 + 1, if a child gives an answer 1 + 1 is 1, the teacher will say, oh, how can you? Well, don't you know simple math? But 1 + 1 is 2, depending on what. If I bring 1 bottle here and I bring another bottle, now I have 2 bottles. However, if I have a cup of tea here and I have a cup of tea here, and it's 1 cup of tea + 1 cup of tea, and I pour it in, now I have 1 cup of tea. It's still 1. I don't have 2 cups of tea now. If I have a pile of sand and another pile of sand and I add it together, because 1 + 1, it's still one pile of sand. And what is this saying? When she said it, I was like, oh wow, that's an interesting way to think. It talks about it's now I've learned 1 + 1 is 2, and I know, okay, but I'm also open-minded to know that 1 + 1 in quotes can be 1, depending on what we're speaking about. And 1 + 1 can be something else depending on the context. And if you're closed-minded to knowing that it can be something else, like what Timothy is saying, then you're not able to unlearn and relearn. You're not able to advance. And honestly, if you stop learning, then you stop growing. So thank you so much for you guys for so many insights. I took notes. I was excited. And we're then going to open the floor. I know what our time is really fast spent, so we're going to try as much as possible to get the questions pretty quickly from the kids. Samuel, please unmute your mic and let the student and the teacher, we have a teacher that has a question and a student that has a question in JuCE. Please unmute your mic and ask the question. And you can please let me know in the chat if you have any questions from your kids as well. So Samuel first, please.
Okay, yes, we have questions. I don't know if I can be heard.
Okay, can we give Samuel, can we give Samuel an opportunity to ask first, and then you can go. Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you. Okay. Samuel, are you able to speak?
Okay. I'm coming. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so one of my students have a question.
Okay, they can speak directly and ask us. Let them tell us their name, their age, and where, and that's it. And what class, yeah.
My name is Jonathan Zaka. My name is Jonathan Zaka. I'm just 2.
Okay, what's your question?
What is
Sorry, can he repeat the question, Samuel, please?
Okay.
Samuel,
Education.
what is formal education? Is that what he asked?
Yes, that's his question.
Okay. I'm going to let one of the speakers handle it because I think I explained before, but maybe you missed it. Which speaker would like to speak on it? Maybe I wasn't clear enough. Timothy, please go.
Hello, Jonathan, and thanks a lot for your question. And so formal education is the education that you get when you go to a school. And now you said that you are in JS2 and you are getting what we call a formal education. Okay. So when you go to a school that you see in Nigeria, it could be a secondary school, a primary school, or a university. If you go to any of these schools, you're attending a formal education. Okay. So I hope this does it make it clear for you, Jonathan?
Yeah, so he's Samuel is muted, but thank you, Timothy. Jonathan, thank you for your question, and your question is important to set the context for what we've talked about, because there are people who say after secondary school, I don't really know if I want to continue and go to university, do all that degree. Let me just start my own thing, right? So that's why we're having this conversation. Is going to school important? That's the simple way of saying it. Is school important? Do you need it? You know? So thanks for that question. Samuel, can the teacher ask her or his question, and then we can go ahead. Please unmute. You're muted currently.
Okay, so we have another question on by the teacher.
All right. Good afternoon. It's afternoon in Nigeria.
Good afternoon.
I am grateful for this opportunity. My question is, how can formal education aid in boosting the confidence of learners who are timid? Because you find out in the society that most people go to school, and even as they graduate from school, some of them are still timid or unable to express themselves freely. So how can formal education aid in boosting the confidence of learners? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm going to let Ifeanyi answer that, because the stereotype with your job is that you're out there, you know, so I'll let you start at this. You're
Honest.
Okay.
We've always known the educational system. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Sorry, I adjusted my bug. So we've always known, for me, experiencing the educational system in Nigeria was not as bad for me as now the thought of my children experiencing the exact same system. I think I kind of roughed it. I don't know if I want my children to rough it. And let me give a simple example. I think one of the speakers mentioned that our system does not prepare us for the reality of the workplace. If you go to a lot of, and I think the private education in Nigeria has started to try to address some of those gaps. Simple example, the teacher asks, how do you boost confidence in your learners? Simple thing, presentations. In the world of work, we do so many presentations. And I remember a few of my colleagues that their first cultural shock was the fact, one of my guys was like, I'm a finance guy. Why do I have to do PowerPoint and talk about? I thought I would just sit in front of my computer and press my computer, and that's it. Suddenly, I have to talk. I have to talk to the MD. I have to make a case. I have to build a case. But guess what? My kids today, the school that they attend, I'm talking about primary school children. They do presentations in class. They do recitations. They do told to go and research, basic research. The other day, my daughter came up with something, elephants fly. It's a very ridiculous thing, but they're like, as ridiculous as that your idea is about it in class. Okay, you and I can argue today that elephants don't fly. But if that child is confident enough to do some basic whatever and put together her debate on the reason she believes that an elephant can fly, fast forward to a few years later, perhaps when she's in the world of work and she has to defend something that does not exist before. It is the background of everything that you have built up to this point that would enable. So my recommendation to you as a teacher is start to introduce things even within the learning modules that you have. Debates work, presentations work. Give your students the opportunity to go, tell them to go and research on something that you want to, and let every member of the class actually contribute. Those are the ways that I think that the education system needs to evolve. If you're doing a degree in America, I use America as example because I have a friend who just finished uni in America, and the American system is so aggressive. Like you cannot even get work. This one that we're even doing in Nigeria, you can if you don't network in America, you cannot get a job, or you will not get the good, let me put it like that, you will not get the good jobs. So in school, you even teach students how to make friends, how to create network, because like one of the speakers mentioned, these things are actually skills that you can learn. So those are just like things that can, within a formal education system, help students actually boost their confidence.
Thank you so much. Daniel and Timothy, would you like to contribute or?
Just very quickly, I want to add that first of all, I appreciate this question from the teacher. I find it's a very interesting question, and there isn't much to add from what Ifeanyi said, but one thing about it is that if you want to have kids that can express themselves, if you want to learn anything, the only way is to actually put them in that situation. Put them in a situation where they have to express themselves. It can be presentation, like you said. It can be different things. Maybe tell them to go and meet other students or do something. I saw this thing on social media, and they were kids, and they gave them some kind of stickers and asked them to go and meet strangers and say something to them and get something back. So probably you are in the locale, these kids, what can help them. So put them in a situation where they have to express themselves and give them guidance, give them scores, let them feel good when they do these right things. And that's the only way they can develop it, because the more they practice it, the more they do it, the more they grow confidence. And usually the result is you end up with kids that are not afraid to express themselves, that are not afraid to actually come out and do this because they've practiced it growing up. So that's all.
Thank you for that, Timothy. Daniel?
Okay, I'll just continue from where Timothy and Ifeanyi talked about kids being more curious and being able to express themselves. Because me, for instance, I'll use my case as an example. When I grew up, I grew up around books. Like my mom was a teacher, but in some way she like informally created that environment that was always around books. And when my siblings, like we already knew how to imagine stuff. Like I think I read R.L. Stevenson's Treasure Island when I was like 6 and stuff. So I had like a head start on a lot of one, even though I think I've only read one book from television this year. I still have some privilege and advantage that come with having that background in reading and learning. So, like Timothy had mentioned, it's always good to expose kids to stuff that you can learn and have a grasp of, because the world doesn't live on your own terms, and the world is incredibly cruel to like introverted or shy people. So you have to actually go out there and pursue those other things that other people are pursuing, because whether you like it or not, they are like in a country like Nigeria, for instance, now. Nigeria is very kind to those people who are incompetent but loud. And then you see that people who are actually competent tend to play within themselves. So you have to actually go out there, put yourself out there. It has to be audacious, you have to be loud, not just loud for the sake of it. But one thing I've seen in my career is that when you pair audacity with competence, you actually go further than someone who is not competent but is loud. Because at the end of the day, one is going to trump the other. And it's always very good to have that expressiveness from the get-go.
Thank you, Daniel. We have two people in the audience who would like to speak on this question. Fola, please, could you go first? Just to introduce Fola, she's the vice chairperson of JuCE. So, and she's a lecturer herself. So I think she can speak from that perspective. Fola, please unmute your mic if you can. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So if I mentioned a very good point about engaging the students, because our children attend a private school. But if you're in a low income community where you're teaching in a not so good private school or in a public school, the curriculum in Nigeria is generally not set up for things like this. So I think it's the responsibility of every teacher to try to incorporate these things into the way you teach your students. When you notice a student isn't doing so good, and again, in the education system we have in Nigeria, we have positions where we tend to celebrate the best students and we literally just leave the ones that are not doing so well lagging behind. For someone who graduated with a second-class lower, in fact, I am now a lecturer. I'm doing very well. Everybody would say I'm smart, so I believe I'm smart. But I think, judging from our education system, I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't have supportive parents. So I think it's important that we allow these children to know that they're in school to learn, right? It's a learning process. Not everybody would have the same learning capacity, and they actually literally have to complete a term in 3 months. It takes some people much more longer to learn, right? So it's important to instill this confidence in your students by not paying attention only to the smart student. I was a smart kid in primary school, so I knew I liked the attention. And then when I got into uni, I wasn't getting all of that attention again, so I got really lost. So it's important for you to not always celebrate only your first 3 students. Have that, I think, one-on-one conversations with the students that are not doing so well. Create activities that are outside, still related to the curriculum, but are outside of the classroom. Point at those students and make them answer questions, and not in an embarrassing way. Just allow them to think, follow their thought process. I think these are the ways you could actually help students like that, such that it's not only the smart students that get to be spotlighted, basically. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fola. I think that's excellent insight, especially noting that, yeah, like you also teach in a public school. And yeah, so thank you for that. Faustina, I think you wanted to speak. Please unmute and thank you.
Yes, please, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yes. I would also want to say that as teachers, they have to also create a very comfortable classroom atmosphere. Sometimes when a student answers a question, the kind of response that they get from the teachers and then from their colleagues as well also can either boost their confidence or not. So and in classroom, you should know that no answer is wrong. Even when the student gives a wrong answer, how do teachers respond to it? And also, when there's a question that is raised, teachers also don't always have to look at those raising their hands. When they mark people's book scripts, they should take notice of people who are very good, but they don't necessarily talk in class. Encourage those people to also speak up. Yeah, I think when those things are done, it will help. It will go a long way to help.
Thank you. And just to add, and finally just speak to the kids. Kids, I know in secondary school, raising up your hand to answer a question, you might seem like the I too know. It might seem like your own is too much, especially if you now get it wrong. They'll laugh at you. Let me tell you something. Secondary school is 6 years. When you come out of secondary school, nobody cares. Honestly, and I tell you this, I think when you're in secondary school, your hormones are going, you're thinking, I must dress nice. How iron is my shirt? I must talk it, all of that. Honestly, I tell you this free of charge. All of that doesn't matter, right? All of that doesn't matter. But I tell you, putting up your hand to answer a question, right? It's not a thing to be embarrassed about. You might look like the uncool kid. Trust me, in real life, that's what matters, okay? So please, you on your own, we've spoken about what teachers can do to encourage good learning environment. I love that is a teacher that asked, so please, I hope you take this away. But the children listening, please don't be shy to answer. Okay, don't be shy to attempt. You can even, when you raise up your hand, you can say, I'm not too sure, but I think this. Be in that place where you try. If people laugh at you, don't even worry about it. Just know there's a time you keep trying and trying. The teachers will just like you because they know you're making an effort. So please don't be shy, don't be afraid, and don't be ashamed. In real life, all of those things about, he's up, it doesn't matter, okay? Please just take it away that by the time you step 2-3 years into UNICEF, nobody remembers, nobody cares. And what matters is that skill. We've spoken a lot about skills today. That skill, that's what's important. So please note that. Okay, we're going to take all the questions together from the kids so that we speed up. Again, apologies to our mentors that we've told today that it's a 2-hour session or 1.5 hours, and this is so far gone. But please, let's take the questions really quickly. Okay, please unmute because we cannot hear you. Okay.
Accent. Go on now. My name is Annabelle Joseph. I'm in primary 5.
Okay.
The name of my school is
Okay. What's your question?
I want to ask is read longer. Okay. The question I want to ask is, can they study law in every university? Did they have different can you live abroad when you are in higher station?
Okay. Okay, let's take all the questions together. If there's any other person that has a question, Daniel, I think that question is for you, the lawyer.
My name is Matuchi Amandeman. My question is, if you want to be a lawyer and your parents cannot be able to train you to university level, what will you do? Can you use your phone to study law? How can a gravity of being a lawyer start? How can a decision of being a law or doctor be chosen? How can you practice to be a lawyer if your parents cannot be able to train you to university? How can formal education promote our culture? Can formal education promote our career? Can a career become a job? And what is the difference between the two? How can a lawyer be promoted? Is it when he or her judge well? How many degrees can we study to be a lawyer?
All those ones for me.
Daniel, get ready.
Okay.
My name is Martin Mesomaya. I'm in JuCE, so I'm in school in the secondary school. My question is, assuming you are of age to go to university and before you are done with your course, your PhD, but they refuse to allow you to attend NYSC service because of your age and you really want to, because you love education and wanted to make your parents proud. How could you do that with the help of the JuCE? How can the JuCE help you when your parents cannot be able to train you being a doctor? How can you dream big when you can't afford what you are dreaming of? Assuming your background is too poor to afford your dream, what will you do? Assuming you want to become a doctor and you can't be able to train yourself, how can you do it with help of your phone and the JuCE? Then, can you be able to do business and be a doctor? What is the advantage and disadvantage of the both? How can formal education help our country, Nigeria?
Wow.
Okay. Is that all?
No.
Okay. Just one more question.
My
and
name
then...
is Wangene.
Okay.
My name is Happiness Shidera. I'm in JuCE. The name of my school is the secondary school in Italy. My question is, how can formal education help you in your career? How can someone be formalized and also be formalized? Can you be a professor without your PhD?
Okay, thank you. We are going to start. I think many of the questions are similar in terms of yeah, many of questions are similar. So, and I think most of them are for Daniel, and then one of them specifically for Timothy that spoke about dreaming big. So Daniel, please, we're going to let you take front seat on this one.
Okay. I hope I can remember all the questions. I'll start with the most recent one about becoming a lawyer. So, to become a lawyer in Nigeria, you basically need 2 degrees. One of them you get from university, and the second you get from Nigerian law school. So I did a 5-year course. A 5-session course over 4 years at the University of Benin. So I have my bachelor's degree in law from the University of Benin. That's in the state. And then to Nigerian law school, I did I can't remember how many months it was about 9 months, yeah, Nigerian law school. Then I got called to Nigerian bar. So it's a bit of a pipeline journey. You need 2 degrees. So after secondary school, I went to law school, to university, and I went to law school. And so after you get a law degree, you can't go into practice because you need other qualifications. So I have to they call to birth certificate and qualified certificate too that allow me to actually practice. So how do you get promoted in law? That's a very interesting question. So it's about putting in the work and putting in the years. There is no, it's like my favorite Yoruba saying, and there are many roads to the market and there are many roads to promotion. So sometimes it's good luck by putting the years, you progress through the ranks, but there's no one size fits all for this. So I was going to actually try to spend more time on the other question that has to do about affording to go to law. Or let me start with another one talking about can you study law from your phone? So the thing is, you can study most things from your phone, but law is not one of those things because when you want, you can really develop principles on YouTube or watch videos and stuff, but you really cannot practice law without going to school. And I heard you talk about the cost of actually becoming a lawyer. I quite empathize with that situation if you can't afford to. But the thing is, law is quite expensive. And I won't say the benefit that like for your initial years as a practicing lawyer, are actually going to pay off as such because it's quite expensive, but you will not actually be able to like pay off some of the costs in your initial years because at entry level, apart from like the top 4 or 5 law firms, the pay is not so great considering the economic situation. But of course, like I mentioned on this point, you can explore the option of bursaries or scholarships. There's a number of those for gifted children, those, and that's why it's good to take your education seriously, even though it's like secondary school education, because to get like a scholarship to study law at university, there are a lot of options, but they're only available to those who are children that go. They're actually they earn the right to get those scholarships. So if you do pretty well in your JAM, do pretty well in your masters, not your masters now, in your WIEC. Me, for instance, now, I took the JAM once. I didn't get the scholarship, but I didn't really apply for. But then I don't know how high it was now, but I had a pretty high. So I think I had a high score in my masters. I can't remember what it scored. I think it was 270 something or thereabouts. So if you are actually, if you like a track record of excellence, like I mentioned, like paper is important. So if like a track record of excellence, like you have great scores on the WIEC, you have a great JAM score, pretty much sure that if you apply for a bunch of scholarships, something will definitely happen and make everything fine. And I'm really rooting for you. Definitely rooting for you. I don't know if I've answered all the questions. There was an initial question. I can't remember it. I'm trying to remember.
I think what we can do is if there are questions that we cannot answer now, they have a mentor with them, Nkem. Nkem is also a lawyer, wonderfully, so he can also support. And then I really want the question about how do you dream big when you don't have the resources to be answered, and we can wrap up because the time is very fast spent. But kids, any other questions you have, your mentor is there to support you, okay? Timothy, please.
Thank you so much for that question. Like I am really happy that I got that question because it's yeah, at least now I know that you guys are paying attention. So, but before I answer the question about dreaming big, I want to add one thing to what Daniel said. You know, you cannot learn law from YouTube. You can learn law from YouTube, right? To an extent, but you cannot really practice law without going to school. You cannot learn Nigerian law in quotes from YouTube. You need to go to school, and it's expensive, you know. And Daniel gave some really good suggestions. You can go for scholarship, but there's one more thing that you can do. You can't be a doctor from YouTube. You can't learn it from your phone. No, you cannot. But there are things you can learn from YouTube. You can learn how to create content, you know, and get attention, and people will pay you. You can learn how to do design or a lot of things that people can pay you to do. You can learn many things. You can do different kinds of things. So you can learn the things. If you don't have money to go to study law, learn a skill from YouTube. Those ones that are possible, make money from it. Then use that money to go back to school. This is also something you can do. So your phone can still help you to become a lawyer eventually if you use it, rightly. So there are those skills that you can learn from YouTube, right? Find them, learn them. It could be business, it could be any kind of skill. Take your time to learn it and then go back to school and become the lawyer you've always wanted to be. This is possible. Maybe along the way, you might find out, okay, law, I'm not sure I want to do this law thing again. Maybe. But if you really want to become a lawyer, you can. Just put your mind to it and do your best. So to quickly answer the other question about dreaming big, and now, so to be a lawyer can also be seen as dreaming big. Maybe like you said in your question, that your parents cannot afford to put you through school, but you don't give up. You don't say, hey, my parents can put me through school, let me not, I won't do it again. You can dream. That's because being a lawyer it's a big dream. It's not easy. It's a big dream. So let's say your dream is to be a lawyer. This is a big dream, right? You want to be a lawyer that will eventually become the Chief Justice of the Federation. This is a big dream. And you might not have the resources now, but I'm telling you that dreaming about it is one, right? Number two is there are many ways around it. There are many ways around it. And one of it is the one I already, is the one that I think they've all been mentioned here. You could either target scholarships. Maybe you know how to run. Maybe you know how to play football. You know how to do some skill that you're really good at, right? You could look for opportunities that come from that. I don't know if we have those things in Nigeria, but maybe there is something your local government is doing or the state government started doing. You can target those things and apply to them. Maybe from there you get a scholarship that will get you to your big dream of becoming a lawyer, to get you started towards that direction, right? And so that one is way more cheaper. By then, your parents don't have to pay. Someone pays for it. Now, the other way is you can also be the one to pay for yourself. Maybe your parents has a business that they are doing. You know that you don't want to give up. You want to be this thing. This is your dream, your big dream, and you have to believe it. So when you believe it, maybe you work with your parents. You start doing your own little business and make some money and go back to school. This is possible, right? So there are skills that are cheaper to learn, right? Maybe your uncle or somebody gives you a computer, or JuCE could give you, maybe it's tomorrow, JuCE gives you a computer, or you win a computer from school or from something. Now that computer can do many things for you. Maybe you learn how to operate computers. And guess what? How to operate a computer is a skill that somebody can pay you for. So when you get a skill, any kind of skill, people start paying you for that skill. You start saving that money, start saving that money, start saving that money. After a few years, you have enough money to achieve your dream. Then you start going. That's how you get there. When I started programming, I did not have a computer. I started programming from my phone. People don't program with their phones. But guess what? I did not give up because I didn't have the resource. And I'm like, even the list, there are so many people that has worse situations than me. I even had a phone. Some didn't have a smartphone. What they had was all those Nokia. They used it to, I'm not kidding. They started programming with that small phone. And what they would do is they will type it on their small phone. The next day, they will go to a cyber cafe and pay 100 naira, 200 naira to get hours for the computer. They enter there, they quickly type that in the computer and run the program. And that's how they learned. Eventually, they knew how to do this thing. People started paying them from that little skill that they learned. Okay. So now what I'm asking you to do is to do not be deterred by that your parents cannot afford it. You have to keep that dream alive and believe that you can find a way. And it's when you now ask questions, you get ideas. That's why JuCE is here as well. You have access to mentors. You have access to people like Daniel, who is already a lawyer and can even point you to the right schools and the right things you need to study. You have people like me that maybe I have some ideas of some skills that might help you. Okay. And you have your parents there and your friends that also, they do small things. So your mind should be, how do I get to this my dream? Trust me, ideas will come. They will come. And if you have patience and if you are able to learn and you keep that dream alive, trust me, eventually you will get there. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much, Timothy. I see your hand is up. I don't know if it's something super pressing, but I really want us to wrap up because we really want to respect the time of our mentors, but the kids that are there and everybody. But Timothy, what you mentioned about starting with something, making money and going back to school, one of the people in the audience actually wanted to share that. That's her story. That's what she did. Today, she's a lawyer in the Netherlands, right? So that's for Stina. So it's possible. It happens. What he's saying is not, oh, it's not story. It happens, okay? So please share the screen again. But thank you so much to our speakers who are here. Thank you, kids, for your questions. Please, if you have any other question, don't hesitate to ask your mentors. If they cannot even support you with the question at this point, what they will do is to send us the question. We'll contact our mentors and they will write back to you and tell you, okay? So that's what you should know. I just want to share with you our next events for next 2 weeks. It's on the 6th of July. And we've spoken a lot now about school, about education, about all of this. Next week, we'll be speaking about preparing for university, preparing for education. See this formal education we're talking about, preparing for it, right? And I will be speaking with someone from the Talent Pipeline program. She supports young people to get, access to jobs and to, opportunities. So this is someone you don't want to miss out on her presentation. Okay, so that's next week. And last slide, please. So yeah, next slide. Yeah, so thank you everybody for joining. Thank you for the powerful contributions and answers to questions. Timothy, thank you. Your story, we did not get to share a lot of it today. And I personally asked you on this talk because I am a bit privy to your story. And I was hoping we could share more on it, but we'll have you back. But thanks for sharing snippets of it. Thank you, Daniel, for excellent contributions. Thank you for giving me your quotes that I've now written down. I'm going to, start working with. And Ifeanyi had to drop off. She was at work, as you saw. But thank you, Ifeanyi, in absentia, for actually, again, coming with a very interesting insight, but also as a parent, Thank you to the kids that are here in Enugu, in JuCE. It's lovely to have you. Please come back next week, next 2 weeks, and keep listening, keep asking questions, keep having an open mind. That's how you get to where you're trying to go. These are our social media. This is our Instagram. Like we spoke about, use your phone for things that will benefit you. Follow JuCE on social media. Watch the things we're posting. Follow JuCE with even your parents' phones. Tell them about JuCE. Tell them what we're doing. And follow JuCE on social media. Follow JuCE on X. Follow JuCE on Facebook. And most importantly, follow us on YouTube. All of this today will be posted on YouTube. Everything we've done in the past will be on YouTube. Things we're doing in the future, all on YouTube. So it gives you an opportunity that even if you miss a session, you can find it there. So I think that's the end of today's session. Your mentors, Samuel in JuCE will speak more to the kids, and Nkem in Enugu will speak more to the kids. Thank you very much for joining. Thank you for your beautiful questions. It shows you were listening. Some of them we couldn't get to, but Nkem can help with. And above all, keep talking about JuCE and spreading the message of JuCE. It's really important. So thank you, everybody. Have a great Saturday and a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. Bye.
Bye.